All right, today we're going to do something that, let's be honest, almost none of us ever do. We're going to actually read the fine print. We're diving deep into the NK Games web privacy policy to figure out what's really going on with your data when you use their service. So let's get right into it.
You know the drill, right? You're excited to jump into a new game, this massive wall of text pops up, and what do we all do? We scroll straight to the bottom and smash that agree button. But here's the kicker. That little click isn't just a formality. It's a real, legally binding contract. So what exactly are you agreeing to? That's what we're here to find out.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We've broken this whole thing down into 6 simple parts. We'll start with why this policy even matters, then get into what data they're collecting and how they're tracking you. After that, we'll see how they use it, who gets their hands on it, and finally, what rights and protections you actually have. Think of it as our roadmap through all the legal jargon.
All right, let's kick things off. Section 1. Why should you even care about this policy? Well, it's pretty straightforward. This document isn't just some boring text they make you click past. It's literally the rulebook that governs your relationship with NK Games Web. It lays out in black and white what they are allowed to do with your personal info.
And boom, here it is. This one sentence is the whole ballgame. The most important part? It doesn't say you agree by checking a box. It says you agree just by using the service. Think about that for a second. The moment you visit their website, you've basically given them a thumbs up for everything we're about to talk about.
Okay, so if using the service means you've already agreed to data collection, the next logical question is, what data are we even talking about? Well, the policy breaks it down into 2 main buckets, the stuff you actively give them and the stuff they collect automatically in the background.
So first up, we have what they call personal data. And this is exactly what it sounds like. It's the information that is clearly and directly about you, the stuff you actually type in yourself, anything that can identify you as an individual.
And then there's the other side of the coin, usage data. This is your digital footprint. You're not handing this over, it's being collected automatically as you browse. It's like leaving a trail of digital breadcrumbs everywhere you go on their site, showing them what you clicked on, how long you stayed, everything.
And here's a great side-by-side comparison. On one hand, you've got personal data, right? That's the obvious stuff you give them, your name, your email, your address if you set up an account. But on the other hand, you've got usage data. This is the stuff that's gathered in the shadows, your IP address, what browser you're using, which pages you looked at. So one is about who you are, and the other is all about what you do.
So that leads to a pretty important question. How are they gathering all of this usage data automatically? Well, the magic behind the curtain is something called tracking technologies. And the most famous one of them all? You guessed it, the cookie.
So what even is a cookie? It's actually way simpler than it sounds. When you go to their website, it drops a tiny little file onto your computer or phone. I love this analogy. Think of it like a digital coat check ticket. When you come back to the website later, it sees that ticket and says, oh, hey, I remember you. And just like that, it recalls your login, your preferences, all the little things that make it feel like you've been there before.
Now, it's important to know that not all cookies are created equal. You've got session cookies, which are kind of like temporary visitors. They hang around to do important jobs like keeping you logged in, but as soon as you close your browser, poof, they're gone. Then you have persistent cookies. These guys are the long-term residents. They stick around on your device so they can remember things like your login for the next time you visit, or that you've already said yes to their cookie banner.
Okay, so we've covered what they're collecting and how they're tracking you. But now we get to the big one, the why. Why do they want all this information? What are they actually doing with it? Let's take a look at the reasons they give in the policy.
A lot of this is what you'd probably expect, right? They need your data to, run the service, manage your account, contact you with updates, standard stuff. But then it gets a little more interesting. They use your data to analyze trends to make their service better. And here's a big one. They use it to evaluate or conduct business transfers. In other words, your data is a factor when they're thinking about merging or being sold.
And that last point leads us right into our next section. Does your data stay just with NK Games Web? The short and maybe surprising answer is no. The policy is very upfront about the fact that your information gets shared with other companies.
So who are these other companies? Well, it could be service providers. Think of them as third-party companies that help them run the website. It could be their own affiliates, like a parent company or a subsidiary. It could even be business partners who might want to offer you special promotions. Oh, and it's worth remembering that anything you put on your public profile, well, it's public.
And of course, if law enforcement comes knocking with a legal request, they will share your data.
This is so important to understand. In the world of business, your personal data isn't just data. It's an asset. It has value. So if NK Games Web ever gets sold or merges with another company, your information is part of the package. It gets transferred to the new owners just like the desks, the computers, and the brand itself. It's literally part of the deal.
Okay, so after all that talk about collection and sharing, you're probably wondering, what about my rights? How do they protect my data? Let's get into the final section and see what the policy says about security and your control over your own information.
First things first, they give you a major dose of reality. And this is a quote you'll find in almost every privacy policy out there. They say that no method of sending information over the internet is 100% secure. This is their way of saying, look, we're doing our best here, using what they call commercially acceptable means, but we can't promise that your data will be perfectly safe. It's basically an open admission that things can go wrong.
So besides that big disclaimer, what other protections are there? Well, they make it very clear that the service is not meant for anyone under the age of 13, and they'll delete any data they find from underage users. They also promise to let you know if they change the policy either through an email or a big notice on the site, so you'll definitely want to keep an eye out for those notifications.
And that's the grand tour. From what they collect, to how they track you, to who they share it with, you now have a much clearer picture of what's hiding in that fine print. So I'll leave you with one final thought. Now that you know what you're really agreeing to, is it going to change the way you click that agree button in the future?